What's up, folks? Sean the Average Angler coming at you with another great video. And today we're going to cover a bait that's extremely popular in the springtime. And while it works a lot of the time, oftentimes the fish kind of get turned off to it. Maybe because they're seeing too many of them. Most of the time, I think that's what it is. It just gets overfished at times. Now, if you stuck with it, you might get them to bite. The bigger fish, which are typically smarter because they've been around longer and probably been hooked by it a few times already, well, they may be a little more hesitant, and those are the ones we want to catch. So I have some alternatives for you today that you can throw in place of that bait and get those fish to bite. If you're new to the channel, first time clicking on, join the community and hit that subscribe button down there. Really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. And for those of you watching and learning something, be sure and hit that like button, drop a comment. That really helps the channel out, and the algorithm, all that kind of strange stuff with YouTube that, well, quite honestly, the average angler doesn't really understand. I'm just here to try and help y'all learn how to catch more fish. So, I have this lake close to me. It's a small lake. If you get 6 boats on it, it can be a lot of pressure. Quite honestly, on the weekends we get a lot more than 6 boats. So in the springtime, one of the best baits for years has been the good old 5-inch Yamamoto Senko. Still a great bait. It's always been a great bait. There's a lot of ways to fish it, right? You could fish it on a shaky head. You could fish it on a wacky rig. You could just Texas rig it, fish it weightless. You could put a little bullet weight in front of it and drag it. There's no doubt that the Yamamoto Senko has probably caught more fish since its inception than any other bait around. I don't dispute that one bit. What I have noticed is there's times where they just don't want to bite it as much as they were. So if you're on a multi-day trip, a lot of times you'll run into this. So I've got some alternatives here that I've found bring me great success. Now, number one is this one here, and you'll notice that it's a 6-inch bait. Okay, so it's a little longer, but it's not a Yamamoto Senko. The Yamamoto Senko in 6-inch also gets fatter. This is the same diameter as that 5-inch. Obviously, I'm not getting calipers out to measure it, so you'll kind of have to take my word for it. It might even be just a shade thinner. This is a Bass Pro Shops Stik-O worm. Now, I found these years and years and years ago, and they have worked for me, and I kind of use them more in the spring just because so many people throw the Senko that I'm trying to throw something a little different. And with that 6-inch and a little thinner, you'll see it gets a little bit more bend through the middle. All right. See the bend? It gets a little more bend, so it's got a little bit more freer movement. If you want to put a weight in it, this is one thing I learned you can do. You can take a nail weight and stick it in the egg sac, somewhere like in the middle of the worm there. And then use one of these VMC crossover rings for your hook, your wacky hook, okay? What that's going to do is add a little weight to the middle of that bait. It's going to give a little more action because it's being pulled down from the middle. So that's one thing that's worked very, very well. Now, just on a Texas rig, this thing works great too if you're in shallower water. And the bullet weight routine of casting it and dragging it along edges, back in tulies, those kinds of things also works very, very well. It's just a different presentation. Okay, now stick around till the end because the last one's really going to surprise you. Some of you may know already, some of you may not. But the last one's a big surprise. All right. Here's another one that I really like. And this is, I think it's a newer bait. I don't know, I haven't had it that long. This is another 6-inch bait. I fish Clear Lake, so I really like 6-inch baits. This is a Sense Clout. 6.3 inch, I assume is what that 6.3 means on there. Where the hell is it? 6.3 Clout. Now, the color is great. This one's called Gill Dust, which looks like green pumpkin. There's some gold flake and purple flake in there. Great combination, right? Again, can be fished multiple ways. What I really like about the Clout is you see all the edges as I hold it up there and roll it. So it's got all these crazy edges in it. That's going to put off a different vibration in the water, as well as making this respawn a little bit differently. Riggings can be the same as the other one. This one feels pretty heavy. I don't think you would need to add any weight to it. You don't have to do the Brass Pro Shops one, but this does have less salt than a Senko, so sometimes it helps. All right, last but not final. Now this one's really interesting because it kind of goes against the grain of what we think we need to do in the spring. Sometimes when those fish are really spooky, that little small Senko is what it takes to trigger them. That's a little 4-inch Yamamoto Senko. This is the electric shad color. Good color, not something I really throw in the springtime. It's just the pack that I grabbed for demonstration purposes. I am going to fish this either Texas or Wacky. It doesn't really matter. If they're on this bait, they're just on smaller bait. So if they've been eating the 5-inch and you try a 6 and don't have success, then this may be the route to go. Now the only downside to fishing the 4-inch is it's a little harder to cast, especially if you're trying to be precise because it's light. Now you could always try it on like a Zapu head or one of those little weighted jig heads, the weedless ones. You have to kind of experiment and try things because at this point the fish are really in a negative mode if that's what you have to do. However, it does work. And I know guys who have gone out and done this, and I've done it myself, where the bite just seems like it shuts off and you go down to a little 4-inch Senko and all of a sudden, bam-o. Guess what? The bite was never off. They just changed on what they wanted. And sometimes that little tiny bait is what they need, all right? So get out there, get you some fish, experiment this season, try some different things. Don't just follow the norm of being the Senko guy. I'm not saying don't throw them, just have some alternatives, and if they stop biting the one or won't bite it initially, try something else because that bait is really hard to beat, and there's a ton of choices out there. These are just a few that I grabbed off of my pegboard up here. And look, the Bass Pro Shops one, to be honest, I don't talk about that a whole lot, okay? I kind of kept it in my back pocket. You can see I bought bags. This is full. Okay, they come 18 in a pack, but I put 2 packs in a pack. They're not expensive. They work. And essentially, it's just a fat worm, right? All right, I'm Sean, the Average Angler. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.